I'm going to talk about specific use cases of both central, local, and a non-governmental, but I think is relevant about how we enabling organizations to go digital. So in terms of digital transformation, there's lots of different definitions, but I've got this one from the MIT Business School, and it's about using technology to radically improve how an organization performs. And there's different ways of, obviously, you would go about doing a digital transformation. So a lot of the talks here will be talking about the customer experience, so how do you engage with the citizen, channel shift and all of that. But one of the fundamental things is, and it was mentioned in the questions this morning, was once you've got that channel shift as a citizen, we don't, they don't care, we don't care about which part of government we're talking to. Government needs to be joint up working. So where alfresco and our solutions focus on is on the operational processes, enabling that collaboration on the back end. And there's obviously business models as well that you can change as well, but we're going to not. So I'm going to be focusing on operational processes in the case study about how do we enable government to be agile and work in a joint up way so that you can serve the citizens better. In terms of these are the customers that we're currently working with. Again, these are all alfresco customers. So Home Office, Department of Education. So to give you an idea, Home Office, it's for the new visa processing system. So every visa application that comes in, all of the supporting documentation is going to go into alfresco. They're going to build their own case management tool on top, but alfresco is going to be that core repository that enables them to digitize all of their application supporting documentation. So, if someone's applying for a visa or asylum, you don't have to keep asking them for the same documentation again and again. It's about digitizing that process. Department for Education, they are changing the way. So they used to fund 200 or 220 local authorities. They gave them money to run the schools. Now, with the academies and the free schools, they're expecting the school providers to be somewhere in the region of 1,200,000. So, and they've got to deal with all of those people and exchange information and fund them. So they need to fundamentally change the way how they engage with their providers. And so we're building a new portal driven by workflow and document exchange. And again, it's all driven out of alfresco. So these are examples of some of the ways. And Bristol is another one. Bristol is quite leading the way in terms of how they're using cloud services and mobile. And in fact, I've got a video from Bristol, Gavin, talking about what they're doing.
So I think what people expect from any organisation now is an almost frictionless experience where they find an easy way of sending us a message, whether it's through their smartphone or whether it's on a web browser. The forms are really simple and easy, and they can just send off their concern or their report to us. And they don't expect to have to deal with complexities in the back end. They expect it to just flow through, and they expect us to do the heavy work of connecting things together in the back end. So making sure that we've connected the requests with our systems and any evidence that's provided with our document management systems. And so that whole back end, front end integration is something that people just take for granted in the age of Google and Facebook and Twitter. So using alfresco as the document management system in the back end, and Zaizi's help in designing that work and implementing, developing the integration, working with our teams in the council, is part of creating that seamless flow for users so that we can simply store their documents when they provide them and provide that service without them realising that there's anything particularly complex going on in the back end. Essentially, alfresco's role in the council is to provide that kind of open document management system, records management system and team collaboration space, and that has helped us to become more efficient about the way that we move documents around the organisation. It's freed us from being in particular physical locations to access those documents. It's allowed us to remove paper from processes like meetings and that sort of stack of paper that had to be printed out, brought to a meeting and then thrown away has been just taken away completely. So that saved time, it's saved energy, it's carbon reduction in the long run. So alfresco's role is to have supported all of those things by giving us the tool that we need to be more digital in our everyday working.
So I'm going to now jump into the details around the specific case study. So this is around what Gavin was talking about, how we've enabled collaboration and joint up working, but also met all of their compliance requirements with records management. And this kind of, I'll talk you through the scenario, but this, this is what Bristol are doing. This is also what we're doing for Department for Business Innovation Skills around how they need to collaborate, but also meet all of their compliance requirements. So this is Sally. I'm going to use her as our guinea pig. So she works for Biz, and she, in her day-to-day work, she works with a lot of other agencies. She does a lot of collaboration with academics, different public bodies, other people in other countries, and she does, she does all of this by sending lots of emails with documents, videos, attachments, and she keeps sharing these. And that's a lot of files for to share. Now, Sally's a very clever girl, and she just wants to get her work done. She doesn't really care what IT provide. She's smart, wants to get her work done. The challenge for her is obviously with all these government organizations, they have an ECM in the back end. That's where all the documents are stored and people collaborate, and they can that the group on the left there, they're the employees, the staff, government staff, and they can get work done, they can collaborate, and that's great. And then you've got the information managers, the people who are worried about compliance. They make sure that the right documents are then taken and deposited in the records management system, which is typically within government currently is a separate system. So they have to remember to take it off and then file it away in the records management system. Records management systems tend to be very old and clunky. So the people who want to get work done, what they do is they tell the information manager, you need to file this as a record, but I'm going to keep a copy on my desktop because I don't want to go into the records management system because I don't know how it works. I'll never find it, so I'm going to keep a copy here. And then all of a sudden, now you have no master copy. And, one of the challenges. But for Sally, she needs to obviously work with all these people, but they're not within the firewall. So that's a challenge on how she's going to share stuff with them. But as I said, she's quite smart. So she emails them documents back and forth. She puts it on a USB key and then sends it to them. And then she goes, oh, I've got a personal Dropbox account. My email, I can't send a file more than 20 megs. I know, but Gmail I can send, so that she'll use Gmail or she'll use Dropbox to share stuff with her colleagues. The problem with obviously using all of these personal services and devices is obviously, you lose a USB key, you're in the papers, or people put it on their personal Dropbox account and they leave the organization, then it's still on their personal Dropbox account and you've not got access to it. And obviously if everyone else starts doing it, then you've got all these documents in all of these different silos, which obviously is a big concern for the CIO who's worried about the whole compliance issue. So there is a conflict within a lot of these organizations, especially with the modern consumer tools that lets people in their everyday lives share videos and images quite easily. And they come to the workforce and they think, well, why can't my organization provide these same capabilities? And it's we call this the Dropbox problem. So, but there are solutions. So government departments, for example, the CIO comes along and goes, well, let's use Huddle or SharePoint 365. Let's use that to share stuff. But for Sally, it's great. She could, start using Huddle to share documents with third parties. But obviously, Huddle is not connected to their corporate system. So it's a separate system. Someone has to remember to upload it to Huddle, share it. Then when it comes back, you either need to put it within your internal system manually, or you need to remember to file it away. It is separate, and you lose that audit trail of who changed what, when. You lose all of that compliance information. It just becomes, it's just as sharing it by email. So that is one of the challenges with using some of these enterprise online services, because they're not integrated with your corporate system. You lose that continuity or the provenance of your records. So things like, where is the master content? Where is you'd have to start giving it names and making sure that, you access the file with the highest number and things like that. So, and as John talked through, alfresco solves this problem nice and neatly. So this is what the alfresco solution looks like. You've got a central repository. This is the one on-premise. You've got records management built in, so you don't need a separate system. All the documents are there. Once you finish collaborating, it automatically files it away and it keeps a track of it. And alfresco also has a cloud solution that's available in the cloud that you can then use to automatically share stuff. So sharing a document with a third party then becomes quite easy. You log on to the alfresco interface. This is the folder structure documents you see, and you get an option at the bottom say sync to cloud. So you say I want to share this folder with the colleague, and then you click on that, and that's it. That synchronizes that folder to the cloud instance. You then invite them to the cloud instance. They've got access to that. And whenever someone updates that instance in the cloud, it gets automatically synchronized back into your enterprise instance. And you also get the full audit trail of who changed what and when. All of that's logged as well. So it's seamless synchronization between the enterprise and the cloud. And one added benefit is obviously if you've got staff who want to use their own tablet devices and the content is not sensitive enough that you're sharing it in the cloud, then you can allow them to access the cloud instance, for example, from their tablet device. So again, this is one of the things that they do at Bristol. Sensitive information, or information they want to access on their tablet devices, they sync it to the cloud version. So when they're in meetings, they can access all them of their tablets. But obviously, if you've got your own secure tablets that you want to issue, they've got to then have access via the VPN into your secure content as well. But again, some organizations are giving out their own tablet devices, but if people bring their own, they can access the one in the cloud. Obviously, this is brilliant for Sally because now she can collaborate securely. She doesn't have to worry about copying stuff and sharing stuff. It's ultimately taken care of. And the other challenge is obviously is with large repositories. So it's great for her, but also the type of work she's involving and the type of content she's dealing with. Alfresco deals with all of this type of content as well. So it's no longer documents that are being created and shared. We've got videos and audio files of recording. So Hampshire, for example, they manage all the body cam videos. So the police come in, they download the full video, but only 2 minutes. It could be an hour-long video. He's been on a beat, but only the 2 minutes that are important. So, but for evidentiary purposes, you need to manage that whole video. So you can store that within Alfresco, manage it as a record. It'll load up images. You can save emails as well directly into the repository, scan documents. So this is all the various pieces of information that can be managed and shared easily within the repository with third parties. And obviously, when Sally's in the office and she needs to get access to Alfresco, she's got a shared drive access. So Alfresco pretends to be a shared network drive. You can open it up, double click, opens up Word, you edit, save. Very little training required. People carry on using it as it was a shared drive, but behind the scenes, Alfresco is versioning it, doing audit trail and everything else. You've got mobile access as well. It's got email integration, so from within Outlook, it pretends to be a public folder, so you can drag and drop emails and attachments directly into Alfresco. And if you navigate to the public folder, all your permissions apply, so you only get to see what you're allowed to see. And you can attach documents into Alfresco, into emails from your Outlook client. So you never have to leave Outlook, you never have to go to the repository. You can work in. It's got SharePoint integration as well, so it pretends to be SharePoint. So from Office, it works just like SharePoint, double-click, open, save as directly into Alfresco. Again, it's got integrations with applications as well. So this comes back to what John mentioned around open standards and open sources. A lot of this integrations was done by the community, then contributed into Alfresco, but Alfresco provides obviously the shared drive and all of those out of the box. And it's quite easy to integrate Alfresco into a lot of line of business applications as well. So, so coming back to the sync, one of the other added features around compliance and records management. So at the moment, so you've got all this information and compliance people on the right-hand side. They're making sure that all of the documents that get collaborated on, it's being filed as a record. But, we're in a austerity drive, so people, team sizes are being reduced. So the compliance manager goes from 3 people down to 1 person. And now they've got to manage all of the compliance and records, make sure everything's been filed away, and they can answer FOI requests. So where Alfresco helps in addressing this is it's got some really powerful records management capabilities. Namely, it's got in-place records management. So when you finish collaborating with a document, you don't need to file it away in a separate area, in a separate folder structure that you're not familiar with. You leave it in where you finish collaborating. You literally right-click, say, I want to file this as a record. It's as simple as that. The original document stays where it is, it creates a link into the records management site. So in a 6 months' time, on a 2 years' time, you say, oh, I worked on that project, I need to get that document. You go back to your folder structure you're familiar with, and you will find that record. But the records manager will obviously see that within their corporate file plan in where they put it. It creates that corporate file plan automatically. It's got intelligent metadata driven. So when you file a record, it looks at the metadata on the document and automatically creates the corresponding file plan if it doesn't exist. And it's also got automated filing rules. So you might say, as long as it's got all of these metadata all these metadata have been completed, or you can guess the metadata based on who put it in which folder, then automatically file it away. I don't want to go look at it and manually file. So you could do that. So if I take that in a bit more detail, so contracts and policies, for example, might pertaining to a particular, it could be a customer or a supplier. They all sit within their separate area. So legal will have contracts, and then policies will be the team. But within the file plan, it's all stored automatically within that a different structure. And it's got the intelligent flight plan capabilities that it generates. For example, if you've got case numbers, it automatically creates the folders and files that off based on in this case, it's using the case number as a metadata structure as well. And then things like automated filing as well. So you can configure rules on your collaboration folders. And again, this is a business analyst can do it without any development or coding. They can configure rules that if condition X is met, then file this away as a record. An example of this is, for example, here's a case file, and you've got a little metadata tab called case close. So the minute someone ticks that case close, the system recognizes the case is finished closing, and it'll file that away automatically as a record. And that could be done by a human, an operator, or it could be done by your line of business application calling alfresco and saying the case is closed. And then the file is automatically managed as a record. Yeah. So the whole alfresco solution with the collaboration, with the cloud and the records management, the clever records management compliance, is what we call a simple solution for smart government, because it enables you to collaborate, do joint up working, and be quite effective. The other question obviously we get asked is about cloud, so I'm going to quickly jump. So what we have is with Bristol and with Biz, for example, they've got an AL3 service that they use for the internal, and the cloud instance is effectively, it's in the same data center, but it's an AL2 accredited center that works across the PSN. So they've got access to collaborate with third parties across the PSN, and it syncs it as well. So that's the cloud service that we've got for them. Yeah. Okay. Got 20 minutes, so I'm going to rush through this. So I'm going to talk about secure mobile collaboration and how once you've synced it in the cloud, and what are the typical things organizers are doing. And I've got a really good case study from Eurostar. I know they're not technically government, but they used to be owned by the British government. So, they used to be owned 40% by government. So they are post government. So what Eurostar have was they've got these train drivers, and they walk around with these bags full of safety manuals. So it tells them what to do in case of a terrorist attack, or what happens if there's leaves on the track, or if there's snow. What do you do in a case of emergency and customer complaint? So it's a book that they carry around. It weighs around 8 kilos. It's quite thick. And whenever there's updates, they get new pages printed, it's inserted, and everyone gets to make sure that they've got to sign the fact that they've got the latest copy, that they've read it, they've understood it, they don't have any questions, and then they carry around. And that causing all sorts of problems, obviously waste and issues around carrying that on your back all day when you're running up and down the train. So one of the things that they wanted to look at, and so we've been working with them around alfresco as a document management. They came to us and said, look, could we use mobile? Because all the safety manuals were being worked on within alfresco, and it was stored at alfresco, and they were printing it off to share it. So could we access that from alfresco? So this is from mobile and iPads, because they'd rolled out iPhones and iPads to all of their staff. So the challenges, obviously, they did have lots of challenges. One was around regulatory compliance on how an iPad would work for a safety manual, especially if, what if you spill some water on it, what happens? You lose your safety manual, and is the screen side fit for purpose in an emergency? So they had to go through a lot of the internal challenges. They didn't have the cloud instance in the first instance, so we had a lot of issues with again, IT infrastructure saying, well, you can't access it because you can't have access. There's a particular issue because in the UK there will be on one network the minute they go over to France. But also there was other operational challenges working across 3 countries and the whole change management that they had to go through. But it was done successfully, and the feedback speaks for itself when they roll this out to people. They could, one of the things that they couldn't do, and what they could do was search for keywords. So when there's an emergency, they didn't have to look at an index. They can search for it, find it. They can respond to customer queries quickly because the search enables them to do it. Obviously, carrying an iPad as opposed to a 8 kilo bound manual was much more easier. Updating it was much more easier. So whenever there was updates, when people collaborated in alfresco, the workflow kicks in. Final version gets reviewed, it gets published, and then anyone and everyone who's downloaded that version of the document on their mobile device gets a push notification saying there's a new version, download it. And when they download it, they get an acknowledgement form saying, have you read it? Here's the changes, do you understand it? They submit, click, and all of that's tracked within alfresco for audit and compliance. So they didn't have to print anything. And obviously the last couple of quotes are obviously the really powerful ones, and these are coming from their train drivers. It makes the world a bit smaller. So in terms of mobile is obviously key, and there's app for alfresco, and we've extended and customized it, added all of the security features added in as well. So there's access support for good, Symantec, and mobile iron as well. It works on Android and iPhone. If any, but it doesn't work on it does work on Windows, but there's no app for Windows, and I don't know, we're struggling to find people who knows Windows development on mobile devices. So if you're a government department and you're considering Windows devices, I think twice, because you're not going to find resources able to support you on that. Obviously, and this is one of the big plus points that alfresco's got from Gartner, that cloud sync, being able to sync it out and then being able to access that from a mobile device, for collaboration, for workflow, for making notes, minutes as well. And there's a great quote from Bristol, who one of their challenges is, it's their senior, the people who bring their iPad and say, make this work for me, as their most members of staff. And they're the people who want to access your most senior, most sensitive information. So you've got to make sure that it's nice, simple, and easy and secure. And obviously, for Bristol, that's they've got the cloud sync, they've got the on-premise, and they're rolling out mobile devices just to enable them to do that. So that's a whirlwind tour of how alfresco is being used in government. So, thank you.